Hello everybody, Root Beer here. I just thought I'd make a little video about, I've been doing a little bit of a series on how to prepare for contests, how to write contests. So I thought I'd talk about different types of solutions. So far, and I've been doing contests for a long time, I basically see two types of solutions. And those are either, I guess three. But I'll talk about the third one in a moment. And those are sort of written response, so sort of proof-based, and multiple choice answers. And you get that a lot with the basic high school level Pascal-Cayley formats that I go through on my channel. The third type, I guess, would be sort of a subcategory. There's the written solutions where you definitely need to write everything up, like the Euclid questions with the little pen and paper beside them. And then there's light bulb questions on the Euclid, for example, where the final answer will do. Although if you are trying to write the contest smartly, you will give some justification just in case your final answer is not all correct. Okay, you can get part marks that way. If you have the right idea, you just didn't get the right number. So I sort of treat that as you still need to sort of be a written solution. So with regards to the two, you sort of should be approaching the questions differently. So let's talk about multiple choice first. So multiple choice, especially on the Waterloo competitions, there's 5 answers, A, B, C, D, exactly one is right. You often find this, especially on math contests, because in math, our answers are very exact. It's not like a history exam where you might be saying, what are the causes of World War I? And from various perspectives, lots of different answers. In math, there's really just one answer. I've never seen a multiple choice math exam where there's 2 possible right answers unless there was a typo. So with the Waterloo ones, it's 5 different possible answers. And when you have a multiple choice question, you are presented with a short list of possible answers. So this is advantageous because in contrast to, say, a written question, once you write out what you think you know, no one's going to come along and say, no, that's wrong, you need to go back and redo it. Only you can say, does this logically flow? But with a multiple choice, you get your answer at the end, and if it's not one of the 5 there, you know automatically, oh, I've done something wrong. Okay? Not apparent with a written answer question for the most part. Unless it's like a part B and you need to use that answer in part C, and then part C breaks down. Okay? Other things, you're given the answers, so sometimes you can actually use that to your advantage. And so sometimes it's a list of numbers, and you're trying to pick, what is the most number of solutions to blah, and your answers are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A good idea would maybe be to try, are there 5 solutions? Because if I can find at least 5, then that means I've cut it in half. It's 5, 6, or 7. If I can't, then that means I sort of cut it in half, and now it's either 4 or 3. Or you can take the numbers you're given, or whatever responses, and actually sort of plug them into equations from the question and see, are these guys working? So you can sometimes use that you only have a few list of options to your advantage and sort of exploit that. With regards, in particular, to the multiple choice questions on Waterloo exams, I do try and mention this every once in a while, but if you leave one of those ones blank, you get 2 marks for free. And so this goes back to understanding how the marking scheme of the contest you're writing works. But if you were just to guess on a format question, if it's a part A, you have 5 marks up for grabs, and the odds of you being right just at a guess are 1 out of 5. And that drops your average mark down to 1. On average, if you guess, you will get 1 mark per question. But if you left it blank, you could have had 2. On a part B, it's worth 6, so on average you're getting 1.2 marks per guess. And that's much less than 2. And for the part C questions, they're worth 8, and 8 over 5, that's 1.6. So you're still better off getting the 2 marks for free for being able to say, I don't know. That's what Waterloo's trying to do with those, is encourage you to acknowledge, yeah, I don't know. Don't guess, be exact, be confident in your answers, or be able to say, I don't know. And that takes intellectual integrity. I see a lot of people, first time writing a Pascal, they will guess, because that's how it works in school. In school, you don't usually get anything for not answering a multiple choice question, so you might as well guess. On the Waterloo contest, they try and switch it up a little bit. However, when it comes to the Waterloo competitions, you can still guess. My advice would be if you can narrow down your options, your possibilities, which happens a lot more on a multiple choice answer or question than a written solution question. Written solution question, you don't really narrow down your explanation. And so it's hard to take a guess there. But on a multiple choice question, it is possible to sort of rule out, oh, these numbers are too low, or I definitely need an answer that's divisible by 3, so 1 and 7, those are out as possibilities. And you can do those sorts of things. But I would guess only on a Fermat question. I would really only guess if I was down to 2 options, maybe 3, if I really had an intuition behind the question, like if the answer of 17 was really speaking to me. So that's about it for strategies for multiple choice. Now, for written solutions, I get this a lot, especially when we do written solutions in university, and the same is true for written solutions on a math contest. For a written solution, people often say, oh, you've got to do a proof. And for some reason, proof has this scary word. But really all you're doing is you're just trying to explain what you know and how you got to the right answer. You're just writing up in words rather than just constantly using equation equals 7 to get your answer. And you have to make it a little neat so people know what's going on. I recommend that either you just top to bottom write it out, or if you're writing here, 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 and here, use arrows, although that's a little messy, or 1 with a circle for the stuff that you did first, then 2, then 3, and then 4, just so people who are marking it can give you the marks you deserve by following what you're doing. What was my original thought? Oh yeah, so people are sort of scared of this idea of proof, but really it's just explanation. Just tell me or the marker how you know what you know. That's all it is. And if you don't know how you know what you know, then you probably aren't doing the right thing. You should be exact. You should be creating a perfect an equation and being able to use that and being able to explain why are you taking the zeros out of that equation, that sort of thing. Explain what you're doing. But people come to me and say, well, I don't know how much to write. And this is something that can really only be conquered by experience and comparison to what other people have written. Now, fortunately, for example, with the Waterloo competitions, they post solutions up online for their past competitions. And if you're doing older contests, you can go and see how much did they write? What key points did they emphasize? What style did they use? That's something I do on my channel. I write up my solutions. Maybe not as nice and neat as the Waterloo ones, but it's good to get different perspectives. Other things you can do is compare it with your buddy. If you've got a study buddy or if you've got a little group, see how other people are writing up their solutions. Are they writing way more than you? Are you writing way more than them? What I would caution you against, though, is if you have sort of 1 or 2 friends and you're all working together on this, if one of them is writing a ton, don't assume that that's right. Writing a ton takes a lot, and it can eat up your time. And maybe they're one of those people who uses a paragraph when a sentence would do, and maybe you, writing less, are actually the one who's being more succinct, more efficient, and budgeting your time more appropriately. So don't assume that more is always better. That said, if I'm giving out marks and somebody is using a paragraph when a sentence would do, they're still definitely going to get the marks. But if someone is just saying, well, this is obvious, I don't need to write this, and that was the one key concept that was worth a mark, they're going to miss out. So what I would suggest you do for a written question is this. Explain it not to yourself, because sometimes don't write it as though you're explaining it to yourself, because you know what you're thinking, and when you do that, it's very dangerous because you might not be clarifying your ideas for another person to see. So if you've got a study buddy, write it as though you're explaining it to them. Put enough information so your friend could read that and say, yeah, I don't need to work this problem out for myself because you have given me the points and I understand what's going on and I agree with your answer. Okay, so write it as though you were writing it for someone else, because you are. There's someone who's going to come along and mark this and they need to read it, and they weren't in your head at the time of you thinking about this problem. So explain what you're doing as though you're explaining it to your friend or your parent or someone else. Okay? I had something I was going to add to that. Writing up solutions. Oh, yeah. So once you've written it with that sort of style, that level of detail, then you move on. Okay? And come back at the end of the competition and review your paper, as you should. This is sort of something you should do. You should budget a little time at the end, 5 minutes, to go back and review some of the harder questions or review the whole paper or make sure you bubbled everything in. And so you go back, you review, and then if there's time, if you got a lot of time, you say, well, I got time, I will add in the paragraph when the sentence will do, because I feel more comfortable writing in that style. You can always add more if you got the time, but make sure you have the bare essentials there for a written solution. Build upon it later. But having the bare essentials for this question and this question is better than having, in most cases, having a completely well-worded, crafted essay of an answer for one question, and you didn't get time for that second question. Okay. Anything else to say about written questions? Well, I mentioned it at the start, those Waterloo light bulb questions where the final answer is all that's good, all that you need. Sometimes it's as simple as doing all your calculations in the little area they provide before putting it in the little box. And that way you at least have shown whatever calculation you did. Although I typically would jot down one or two comments, put my answer, and then if there was time at the end, go back and turn those little jot notes into an actual explanation. And then that's how you secure the part marks. Because sometimes it's a strategy of, I know I'm not going to get the full answer, let me get part marks by mentioning key concepts and why I know they relate to the problem. You know, mention that we should be using properties about a circle, a cyclic quadrilateral, because you notice that these two angles add up to 180 degrees, that sort of thing. But other than that, the main thing is multiple choice. Try and narrow down your options and sometimes exploit the fact that you have a finite list of answers. And with written solutions, don't think of it as some scary proof. Just think of it as though you're writing a letter to your buddy. This is how I understand how to do this question. And that should serve you very well. Compare the way you do that to the way I do that, to the way Waterloo does that, to the way your friends do it. And over time, over doing lots of contests, you will refine your writing solutions and your test-taking efficiency. Okay? So thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.